They say life can change in a single moment, but neither of them expected it to happen between floors 37 and 1. Clara Hayes was nobody, just another exhausted employee, clutching her coffee and her two small dreams, stepping into a crowded elevator of a skyscraper she could barely afford to work in. Ethan Van Delian was everybody. A billionaire heir, the kind of man whose name decided markets, whose signature built empires, and whose heart had never belonged to anyone. Two strangers. One elevator. A sudden jolt. Power gone, lights dead, and the world froze. In the darkness they spoke. First out of panic, then curiosity, then something neither could name. By the time the doors finally opened, their lives were no longer separate stories. They were the beginning of one. What they didn't know, what neither could possibly imagine, was that their chance encounter wasn't chance at all. It was the trigger, the spark, the moment that would unravel empires, expose buried bloodlines, and pull Clara into a legacy so dangerous, someone would kill to control it. Before the elevator stopped, she was ordinary. By the time it reached the lobby, nothing about her life would ever be ordinary again. Before we dive into the gripping details of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories. The city was already glowing with its evening lights when Clara Hayes rushed into the marble lobby of the Van Delian Tower. Her arms were full of folders, her hair slightly windblown, and her heart pounding from being late, again. As the elevator doors began to close, she lunged forward. A hand, steady, confident, and gentle, caught the door just in time. "Careful," a smooth voice said. Clara straightened, cheeks warm. "Thank you. I guess today just isn't my day." The man stepped inside beside her, immaculately dressed. Dark eyes that held something deeper than confidence, loneliness, maybe. Clara didn't recognize him, but he carried himself like someone used to being in charge. The doors slid shut. "Top floor?" he asked. Clara blinked. "Oh, just 23. He pressed both buttons. "I'm Ethan." "Clara." She exhaled, finally able to breathe, until the elevator jolted and stopped. The lights flickered. Then, silence. Clara gasped. "Oh no, you have got to be kidding." Ethan pressed the emergency button calmly. "Looks like we're stuck. Maintenance is being called. Shouldn't be long." Clara sank against the wall, trying to laugh off the panic rising in her chest. "Perfect. I'm late for my first big presentation. My boss is going to fire me. Probably twice." Ethan tilted his head, smiling softly. "Maybe it's a sign to take a breath." She glanced at him. "Easy for you to say. You don't look like someone who gets fired." He chuckled. "Actually, I've made enough mistakes for a lifetime." Something in his tone made her pause. Not arrogance. Not pride. Minutes passed. Then conversation began, awkward at first, then curious, then warm. She spoke about her dreams of becoming a designer, of helping her mom pay off the family house, of proving she belonged in a world that always felt out of reach. He listened, really listened, as though every word mattered. And when he spoke, she realized why. "I inherited my father's company when I wasn't ready," Ethan admitted quietly. "People see a billionaire. They don't see the pressure, the expectations, the fear of letting everyone down." Clara's breath caught. Billionaire. She stared. Suddenly the tailored suit, the security badge, the confidence, everything made sense. "You're Ethan Van Delian?" she whispered. "The owner of the building. The CEO whose face was on magazines. The man headlines loved to praise, and sometimes tear apart." He looked almost apologetic. "Just Ethan for today." She didn't know what to say, but she smiled, genuine, uncomplicated. "Well, just Ethan, I'm glad we got stuck." His eyes softened, something unspoken flickering between them. "For the first time in a long time," he murmured, "I don't want the moment to end." Before Clara could respond, the elevator jerked, humming back to life. Floors began ticking upward. Her heart sank in a way she couldn't explain. As the doors opened on the 23rd floor, she gathered her folders, hesitating. "This was nice," she said. "Strange, but nice." Ethan looked as though he wanted to say more, needed to, But the words didn't come. Clara stepped out. Just as the doors began to close again, Ethan called out, "Claire, wait." But the elevator sealed shut, carrying him upward. She stood frozen in the hallway, pulse racing, wondering what he had been about to say. Meanwhile, on the top floor, Ethan stepped out of the elevator with new purpose. He turned to his assistant waiting nearby. "Find out everything you can about Clara Hayes." The assistant blinked. "Sir? Why?" Ethan looked back at the still elevator doors, a spark in his eyes. "Because I'm not letting this end." But neither of them knew. Someone else had been watching Clara leave that elevator. Someone who wasn't about to let her life, and her heart, change so easily. Clara barely heard her own footsteps as she hurried down the hallway. Her presentation was a blur, her co-workers' voices distant. The only thing she could focus on was the memory of that moment, Ethan's voice calling her name just before the doors closed. Why did it matter so much? She barely knew him. He was a billionaire. A headline. A world she had no business stepping into. And yet, something in his eyes had felt real. By the time she left the office that night, the city had quieted. She wrapped her coat tighter and headed toward the bus stop, trying to shake off the strange ache in her chest. Meanwhile, on the top floor, Ethan Van Delian stood in his glass-walled office, staring out at the skyline. His assistant, Marcus, cleared his throat. "Sir, we found her employee file. Claire Hayes. Junior designer. Lives in Brookshire. Mother is..." "Her mother?" Ethan turned. "Is she all right?" Marcus hesitated. "According to a note in the file, her mother has been struggling financially. Hospital bills. Their home is close to foreclosure." Ethan's jaw tightened, not with pity, but with a spark of protectiveness he didn't fully understand. "Set up a meeting with Clara's department tomorrow," he said. "I want to see her again. Professionally." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Professionally?" Ethan shot him a look. "Just schedule it." But fate worked faster than any meeting. Clara reached her small apartment, dropped her bag on the couch, and was met immediately by the sound of her mom's cough from the next room. "Mom!" Clara rushed in. Her mother, pale but smiling, waved her hand. "Just a little cold. Nothing to fuss about." Clara sat beside her, trying not to let worry show. "I'll pick up the medication tomorrow." Her mother touched her hand gently. "You're working so hard, honey. You don't have to carry everything alone." Clara smiled softly. "It's okay. Things will get better. They have to." She didn't mention the foreclosure notice hidden in her bag. She didn't mention the billionaire whose eyes she couldn't forget. She didn't mention how, for the first time in months, she'd felt seen. Clara arrived at work early, ready to push yesterday out of her mind. She stepped into the conference room and froze. There he was. Ethan. Leaning casually against the head of the table, hands in his pockets, looking up the moment she entered, as if he'd been waiting only for her. Their eyes locked. Her heart stumbled. Everyone in the room suddenly straightened, whispering, "That's Ethan Van Delian. The so. What is he doing here?" Clara tried to steady her voice. "Mr. Van Delian. I didn't expect." "Ethan," he corrected gently. She swallowed. "Right. Ethan." A faint smile touched his lips, just enough to send her pulse racing. "We're launching a new design initiative," he announced to the room, but his gaze never left Clara. "And I want fresh talent involved." Her co-workers turned toward her. "This project," Ethan continued, "will be led by Clara Hayes." Silence. A dozen eyes widened. Clara felt her breath leave her body. "Me? But I'm not." "You are," he said firmly. "Trust me." Trust him? They'd known each other an hour, but something inside her whispered yes. Before she could speak, the conference room door swung open, hard. A man stood there, breathless, eyes locked on Clara. "Clara, we need to talk," he said urgently. She blinked. "Daniel?" Her ex-boyfriend. Ethan's expression shifted, cool, sharp, unreadable. Daniel stepped closer, voice low. "It's about your mother. And the house. You're in trouble. Serious trouble." Clara's blood ran cold. Ethan stepped forward. "Is Clara in danger?" Daniel's jaw clenched. More than you know. Clara stared between them, her past and something that felt dangerously like her future, her entire world tilting beneath her. What happened? She whispered. Daniel looked into her eyes, fear darkening his voice. Claire, the foreclosure wasn't an accident. Someone is targeting your family. Ethan's voice dropped, dark and intent. Who? Daniel swallowed. The person who ruined my life. The person who wants to ruin yours. He pointed toward Ethan. It's someone inside Vandalian Industries. Clara felt the floor sway beneath her. Someone in Ethan's empire, coming for her family? Ethan's gaze hardened. Clara, I swear, I will find out who. But Daniel shook his head. You don't understand. They already know about her. And they're not going to stop. Clara's breath trembled. Why? She whispered. Daniel hesitated, then said the last words she expected. Because it's connected to Ethan's past and yours. Clara's world went silent. Connected? To Ethan? Before anyone could say another word, the building lights flickered, and the fire alarm began blaring. Security rushed the hallway. Everyone evacuate. Now. Ethan reached for Clara's hand. Stay with me. Daniel grabbed her other arm. No, come with me. 2 hands. 2 futures. And a danger she didn't understand closing in fast. Clara had seconds to choose. The fire alarm shrieked through the corridors, pulsing like a heartbeat gone wild. Red lights flashed, doors slammed open, footsteps thundered as employees flooded the hall in panic. Clara stood frozen between 2 worlds. Ethan's hand gripped her right, steady, warm, protective. Daniel's hand clenched her left, urgent, trembling, desperate. Clara, we have to move. Ethan shouted over the alarm. Security will take us to the safe exit. Daniel shook his head, eyes fierce. No, that's exactly where they'll expect her to go. Claire, trust me. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Smoke, real or imagined, seemed to fill her lungs. Every instinct screamed to run. But which way? Ethan leaned closer, his voice low, controlled. I won't let anything happen to you. Daniel stepped forward. He can't protect you from his own company. Their eyes clashed like 2 storms, Ethan's sharp, calculating, Daniel's raw, terrified. Clara's voice cracked. Stop. I don't know what's happening. The alarm blared louder. Security guards sprinted past. And then, an explosion thudded somewhere deep in the building. The floor shivered beneath their feet. Gasps rose in the hallway. This wasn't a drill. Ethan's jaw tightened. Clara, we're leaving. Now. He pulled gently, but with purpose. Daniel's grip tightened. If you go with him, you'll be walking straight into the trap they set. Please, Clara. I'm the only one who knows what they planned. Her heart twisted. The only one who knows. Before Clara could choose, a thick plume of smoke rolled down the hallway like a dark wave. People coughed, stumbled, scattered. Clara's instinct surged. She yanked her hands free from both men. I'm not choosing either of you, she choked out. Not until I know the truth. She stumbled backward, pulling her sleeve across her mouth, and darted into a side stairwell. Clara! Ethan called, racing forward. Clara, wait. Daniel lunged after her. She didn't wait. She slammed the metal door behind her and bolted down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Her thoughts raced faster than her feet. Someone was targeting her family. Someone inside Vandalian Industries. Someone tied to Ethan's past. But how could any of that be connected to her? Halfway down, Clara paused to catch her breath, but she wasn't alone. A shadow moved below her. The figure, dressed in black, head down, hood up, stood at the landing as if waiting. Clara froze. Hello. No answer. The figure stepped toward her. She backed up the stairs, pulse roaring in her ears. I'm with the company. Please, I just need to get out. Still no response. The figure reached into their jacket. Clara gasped. Footsteps thundered above her, Ethan's voice echoing. Clara! Then Daniel's. Don't go near them. The hooded figure lifted something from their jacket. Clara braced. But it wasn't a weapon. It was a small, sealed envelope. They held it out toward her silently. Clara stared, shaking, before slowly taking it. The figure didn't wait, didn't speak, just turned and disappeared down the stairwell into the smoke. Clara's fingers trembled as she tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. One sentence. Your family was never supposed to find out the truth about the Vandalians. Her heart stopped. Footsteps neared Ethan and Daniel, both shouting her name. Clara stuffed the note into her pocket, chest tight with fear, confusion, and something darker. The truth about the Vandalians? About Ethan? About her? She turned toward the next flight of stairs. But before she could move, a voice echoed through the stairwell speakers. Level 4 lockdown initiated. No one enters. No one leaves. Clara looked up. Ethan and Daniel had reached the landing, both breathless, both staring at her. But the steel emergency doors slammed shut between them, locking Clara inside level 4. Alone, with the truth closing in. The metal doors clanged shut with a final, unforgiving echo. Clara spun toward them, pounding her fists against the steel. Ethan, Daniel. On the other side, muffled voices called her name, first frantic, then fading as alarms drowned them out. The lock engaged with a harsh mechanical click. She was trapped. Clara forced herself to inhale slowly. The stairwell was sealed, but the air was still breathable. No flames, no heat, just the eerie throb of red emergency lights. Level 4 wasn't burning. So why isolate it? She backed away, her hands slipping into her pocket, fingers tightening around the mysterious note. Your family was never supposed to find out the truth about the Vandalians. Her pulse pounded in her ears. The word truth felt heavier than the locked door behind her. A small illuminated sign pointed down a hallway beyond a glass partition. Authorized person only. Something about the silence, too still, too intentional, sent a chill through her. This wasn't chaos. This was control. Clara swallowed hard. One step at a time. She pushed through the glass door into the hallway. Rows of metal file cabinets stretched out like a maze, each drawer labeled with dates, departments, decades of history. A faint hum vibrated from somewhere deeper in the room. She crept forward. A computer workstation glowed in the corner, left on, logged in. Papers scattered around it, as if someone had left in a rush. On top of the pile, one name jumped out like a shout. Please. Clara's breath hitched. Her name. Her family's name. Hands shaking, she lifted the folder and froze. Inside were documents stamped confidential, court filings, financial transfers, medical bills, and a foreclosure notice identical to the one hidden in her bag at home. Except this one had a signature. Ethan Vandalians. Clara's world tilted. No, she whispered. This has to be a mistake. He wouldn't. A soft electronic beep cut through the air. Clara spun toward a monitor as a video feed flickered to life. Security camera footage. An aerial view of the building lobby. She saw herself earlier that morning, walking in, and then, just seconds before, someone else. A woman she didn't recognize. Dark coat. Purposeful stride. She approached the security desk. Slipped something under the counter. Then turned, glanced over her shoulder, straight at the camera. Cold eyes. No expression. The timestamp was from 10 minutes before the fire alarm. Clara leaned closer. The woman's face was unfamiliar, until her gaze dropped to the visitor badge clipped to her coat. Vandalian Legal Division. She worked for Ethan's company. Clara staggered back, pulse racing. A soft hiss of air made her whirl around. Someone else was in the archive. A shadow passed between rows of cabinets. Clara's voice trembled. Who's there? Silence. Then, footsteps approaching slowly, deliberately. Clara backed toward the desk, eyes darting for anything she could use. A phone, a keycard, anything. Her fingers closed around a small plastic badge left on the keyboard. She lifted it. Security Level 4 clearance. Vandalian. Vandalian? Her stomach dropped. Another Vandalian? Before she could process it, the footsteps reached the end of the aisle. A figure stepped into view. composed, eyes sharp as glass. Clara gasped. "I know you," she whispered, though she wasn't sure how. The woman gave a cool, knowing smile. "You should," she replied softly. "Your life has been tied to the Vandalians for a very long time." Clara's throat tightened. Who are you?" The woman stepped closer, her voice smooth and chillingly controlled. "My name is Miranda Vandalion." Vandalion? Ethan's family. Miranda folded her hands as though this were a casual meeting room, rather than a sealed floor in lockdown. "And Clara," she continued, her gaze locking on hers, "you were never supposed to meet Ethan." Clara's breath stopped. "But now that you have," Miranda's smile sharpened, cold as a blade. "We have a much bigger problem." Before Clara could speak, the lights snapped off. Total darkness. A voice, Miranda's, whispered through the black. "You're not who you think you are." Clara stumbled back, heart pounding. Then a single emergency light flickered on behind her, illuminating something she hadn't seen before. A sealed metal door marked Hayes Project, restricted. Her knees nearly buckled. Her family. A project. Miranda's voice drifted closer, too close. "Open it, Clara." Clara's fingers trembled on the handle. Miranda whispered, "Everything you think you know ends tonight." Clara pulled the handle, and the door began to slide open. Cold air hissed from the metal chamber as the door slid open, washing over Clara's skin like winter. She stepped back instinctively, every nerve in her body screaming that whatever lay beyond was wrong. Miranda stood just behind her, arms folded, gaze unreadable in the dim emergency light. "Go on," she murmured. "You wanted the truth." Clara swallowed hard. "I never asked for any of this." Miranda's expression didn't soften. "None of us did." Clara forced herself to look into the room. It wasn't what she expected. No flames. No machinery. No ominous vault of secrets. Instead, the chamber was small, almost clinical. White walls. A single desk. A single chair. And a single object resting beneath a spotlight. A dusty file box. On the lid, stamped in fading black ink, Project Hayes, Origin. Clara's knees felt weak. "Origin," she whispered. "Origin of what?" Miranda didn't answer. Clara stepped inside, drawn forward as though by gravity. Her hand hovered over the lid. "Before you open it," Miranda said quietly, "you should know, your life, your family's life, it was shaped by the Vandalians long before you were born." Clara turned, heart hammering. "But we're nobodies. We're just..." Miranda's eyes flickered, something like pity beneath the ice. "No, Clara. You're not." Clara's breath hitched. Miranda took a slow step closer. "There was a deal," she said. "A promise made decades ago between your mother and our father." Clara froze. "My mother? My mom has never even met." "She has," Miranda interrupted. "And not just once." Clara shook her head. "No, that's impossible." Miranda tilted her head. "Is it? Did she ever tell you why she moved cities right before you were born? Why she never talks about her past? Why your father's name is missing from every document?" Clara's chest tightened painfully. "My father died before I was..." Miranda's voice slid in like a blade. "Are you sure?" Silence crashed around them. Clara's pulse roared in her ears. Miranda continued, voice low, deliberate. "Our father funded your mother's medical care. Her housing. Her relocation. Even your upbringing. All under one condition." Clara forced the words out. "What condition?" "That you would never cross paths with a Vandalion." Clara staggered back. "But why would he care about me?" Miranda's gaze sharpened. "Because the truth threatens everything this family built." Clara's mouth went dry. "What truth?" Miranda nodded toward the box. "It's in there." Clara reached for the lid, fingers trembling, when suddenly, the room shuddered violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. A siren wailed overhead. Miranda whipped around. What was that? Before Clara could react, the intercom crackled to life. "Security breach on level 4. Target located. Initiate containment." Target. Located. Containment. Footsteps thundered somewhere outside the chamber. Fast. Many. Getting closer. Miranda's composure finally cracked. "They're not supposed to be here yet," she hissed. Clara stared at her. "Who?" Miranda's eyes burned. "The people who want this project buried forever." Clara turned to the box. Her hand hovered over the lid, but the overhead lights snapped on, blinding white. A deafening metallic slam echoed through the archive as the outer doors sealed shut. Then a voice, calm, cold, and amplified, filled the room. "Miranda Vandelian. Step away from Clara Hayes." Miranda's face drained of color. Clara spun toward the doorway just as figures in black tactical armor stormed in. Helmets, weapons, visors, formation sharp as a blade. One figure stepped to the front, visor tilting toward Clara. "Miss Hayes," the voice said, chillingly steady. "You need to come with us. Now." Clara backed away. "Who are you?" The figure lifted a badge marked with a crest she'd never seen. "The Vandelian Internal Authority." Miranda's voice sliced through the air. "You have no jurisdiction here." The lead officer turned slightly. "We have jurisdiction over anything that threatens the Vandelian bloodline." Bloodline? Clara's heart stopped. Miranda's eyes widened, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. "Don't say another word," she snarled. The officer ignored her. His helmet turned back toward Clara. "You don't understand what you are." Clara's voice broke. What I am?" The officer stepped forward. "You're not just connected to the Vandelians." Clara's spine turned to ice. He paused, then spoke the sentence that shattered the room. "You are one." Clara stared, breathless, the ground vanishing under her feet. Miranda whispered, "It's too late." But the officer wasn't finished. He pointed to the file box and said, "Open it, and the world will know exactly whose daughter you are." Clara's hand trembled above the lid. Her entire life, her mother, her past, everything she thought she knew, balanced on one choice. Open it or run. The footsteps of more officers echoed closer. Time was gone. Clara lifted the lid and gasped. Clara's breath hitched as the lid creaked open. The officers stood frozen. Miranda stared, pale and rigid. The emergency lights pulsed against the stark white walls like a ticking clock. Inside the box was a single, leather-bound folder. No dust, no age, as if someone had placed it there recently, waiting for her. Her shaking fingers slid it out. Stamped in bold, unmistakable letters. "Paternity classified." Clara's vision blurred. She flipped it open, and the first page hit her like a blow to the chest. A birth certificate. Her birth certificate. But not the one she'd seen before. This one had two names. Mother, Evelyn Hayes. And beneath it, Father, Alexander Vandelian. Clara's heart stopped. Alexander Vandelian, the founder of Vandelian Industries. Ethan and Miranda's father. Her father. Miranda closed her eyes, a tremor running through her voice. "Now you understand why you couldn't be allowed near Ethan." Clara reeled back, gripping the desk to stay upright. "That can't be real. My mom would have told me." "She would have." "Your mother signed a non-disclosure contract," Miranda said tightly. "She was sworn to silence. In exchange for protection." Protection. The word twisted like a knife. The lead officer stepped forward, visor glinting. "You are a Vandelian heir. Conceived in secret. Hidden to protect the legacy. And if this information reaches the board..." Miranda cut him off sharply. "It could destroy the entire company." Clara shook her head, breath shattered. "So what? I'm some kind of scandal? A mistake you buried?" Miranda's eyes flashed. "No. You're a threat." The air in the room turned razor-sharp. "Threat?" Clara whispered. "To who?" "To Ethan," Miranda said. Silence detonated between them. Clara stared at her. "Ethan doesn't know." Miranda's voice was barely audible. "He can never know." The officers shifted. The atmosphere changed. Something unseen and dangerous pressed against the moment. Clara's pulse pounded. "But why?" she demanded. Why keep us apart? Why hide me? Miranda's jaw tightened. Because if Ethan discovers you're his half-sister? Clara staggered. Half-sister. Her throat closed. Miranda finished, voice trembling despite her steel. He inherits nothing. You inherit everything. Every officer in the room tensed. The meaning crashed over Clara like a tidal wave. She wasn't a nobody. She wasn't just connected to the Vandalians. She was the legal heir, the rightful successor. And Ethan, the billionaire whose kindness had felt so painfully real, had no idea. Clara's voice cracked. So the foreclosure, the debts, the pressure, someone did that on purpose? To control us? Miranda didn't blink. To keep you invisible. Clara stared at the folder, her entire life rewritten in ink. The wall behind the officers exploded inward in a storm of shattered concrete and fire. Clara screamed, ducking as debris rained across the room. Shouts. Chaos. Through the haze, a silhouette stepped through the breach, tall, determined, eyes blazing. Ethan. Covered in dust, breath ragged, fury burning across his face. He locked eyes with Clara. Clara, come with me. Now. The officers turned, raising their weapons. Miranda shouted, Stop. Don't let him near her. Ethan ignored them, gaze fixed only on Clara, raw, terrified, desperate. Clara, please, trust me. Clara froze, trembling, trapped between two impossible truths. Ethan, the man she'd felt drawn to, who'd listened, cared, protected. And Ethan, the man who could never know who she really was. Miranda's voice cracked like thunder. If you go with him, Clara, you will destroy him. Ethan took another step, reaching out a hand. Clara, come with me. Officers closed in. Miranda lunged. The alarm screamed. Clara's heart splintered. She had 1 second. One choice. Knowing that either path could ruin everything. She inhaled and chose. She grabbed the folder and ran. Straight toward Ethan. His hand closed around hers. They sprinted through the breach as officers roared behind them, weapons raised. Miranda's scream echoed through the chamber. Clara, stop. He can't know. But Clara didn't stop. Couldn't. Because Ethan pulled her close and whispered, voice shaking. I don't care what they're hiding. I'm not losing you. Clara's breath caught. But the world exploded again. As a steel blast door slammed down between them. Clara stumbled forward, alone, clutching the folder to her chest. Ethan slammed against the barrier on the other side, shouting her name. Clara! Her tears blurred the world. But then, a hand clamped down on her shoulder from behind. Cold. Familiar. Clara. To face someone she never expected to see. Not here. Not now. Not alive. Hello, Clara, the person said softly. I think it's time we talk about your father. Clara's blood ran ice cold. Because the person standing before her was a face she'd only seen in framed photos. A face that should have been dead for 10 years. Alexander Vandalian. Her father. Alive. Clara couldn't breathe. Every inch of her body turned to ice as the man stepped fully into the light, calm, composed, impossibly real. Alexander Vandalian. The founder. The legend. The ghost. Dead for a decade. Except he wasn't dead at all. His eyes, sharp, calculating, startlingly familiar, locked onto hers. You've grown, he said quietly, as if they'd merely been separated a few months, not her entire life. Clara stumbled back, clutching the folder to her chest. No. No, this isn't possible. There was a funeral. A memorial. The plane crash. Alexander tilted his head. A necessary illusion. Illusion. Clara stared, dizzy. You faked your death? He didn't flinch. For the protection of this family. Including you. Clara's stomach twisted. You don't get to say family. You abandoned us. The flicker, regret, pain, passed through his expression, gone almost instantly. I made sacrifices, he said. Sacrifices you'll one day understand. Her voice trembled. You let my mother struggle. You let me grow up thinking I didn't have a father. You let me think we were alone. His silence was answer enough. Clara's pulse pounded in her ears. But why hide me? Why fake your death? Why lie to everyone? Alexander stepped closer, the air around him crackling with authority. Because you were never meant to be part of Ethan's world. Clara's breath caught. You mean the company? Alexander's gaze hardened. I mean his destiny. Her skin prickled. Destiny. He continued, voice low and unwavering. Ethan was raised to lead the empire. To protect the Vandalian legacy. To become what I could not. Clara's fingers tightened around the folder. And me? His eyes darkened. You were the contingency. Silence slammed down between them. Contingency, Clara repeated. Like a backup plan? Alexander nodded once. If Ethan failed, you would inherit everything. Clara felt sick. So I wasn't a daughter. I was insurance. His jaw clenched. You were hope. Hope. Her laugh was hollow, broken. Hope doesn't hide a child. Hope doesn't destroy her family just to keep a secret. Alexander exhaled, for the first time sounding human. Your mother agreed, he said softly. She knew what was at stake. Clara's throat burned. Then why did she run? Alexander's eyes flickered. She discovered something she was never meant to see. Clara's heart stopped. What? He hesitated, almost imperceptibly. That isn't important now. Clara's voice rose. It's the only thing that's important. Before he could answer, a thunderous bang reverberated through the corridor. The steel blast door shook, Ethan's voice muffled but fierce on the other side. Clara, I'm coming, just hold on. Her breath caught. Ethan. Alexander's expression shifted, cold, commanding. He cannot see me. Clara blinked. But he's your son. Alexander's eyes hardened into steel. He is the reason I had to disappear. Clara stared, stunned. What are you talking about? But Alexander wasn't looking at her anymore. He was studying the barrier, listening to Ethan's pounding fists. Calculating. He cannot know the truth, Alexander said. Not about me. Not about you. Clara's voice shook. He deserves to know. Alexander stepped closer, face inches from hers. If Ethan learns who you are, he will lose everything. His title. His fortune. His future. The board will remove him instantly. He will be destroyed. Clara's lungs tightened. Ethan, destroyed. Because of her. Because of a truth she never asked for. Clara whispered, and if I stay silent? Alexander's answer was immediate. He lives. And you disappear. Disappear. Just like he had. Clara backed away, shaking. You can't ask me to choose between my life and his. Alexander's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. I am not asking. Before she could respond, the blast door buckled violently. Metal groaned. Sparks flew. Ethan was almost through. Alexander's eyes snapped to Clara. You have seconds. Decide. Clara shook her head, tears spilling. I can't. His voice cut like a blade. If he sees us together, everything unravels. Clara froze. Alexander pointed to a narrow emergency exit behind him, dark, unmarked, barely visible. This door leads out. To safety. To anonymity. Take it and protect him. Clara stared at the door. Then back at the blast barrier, where Ethan's voice was growing louder, closer, desperate. Clara, please, answer me. Her heart fractured. Alexander whispered, if you love him, you will walk away. The blast door split open with a screech. Ethan's hand thrust through the gap. Clara! Clara gasped, and made her choice. Turned, and sprinted toward the dark exit. Ethan's voice cracked behind her. No, Clara, wait. She didn't look back. Couldn't. The emergency door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into darkness. Silence. Except for one sound. Breathing. Not hers. She wasn't alone. A match flared, revealing a face in the shadows. Not Alexander's. Not Miranda's. But someone she knew even better. Someone she trusted once. Daniel. Her ex-boyfriend. His voice was quiet, haunting. I tried to warn you, Clara. She staggered. Daniel, what? How? He stepped closer, eyes burning with a truth she'd never seen before. I didn't just stumble into all this. I've been part of it from the beginning. Clara's blood turned to ice. Daniel whispered, I know who killed your mother's silence. Clara's breath caught. My mother, what about her? Daniel leaned in, voice barely audible. She didn't run from the Vandalians. He paused. She was running from you. Clara's world shattered, and then the emergency lights snapped on, revealing exactly where they were. A concrete hallway, and at the end, a steel door labeled, Maternal Records, Access Denied. Daniel turned toward it. Everything you want to know about your father. He looked back at her. Starts with the truth about your mother. Clara stared at the door. At Daniel. At the past she thought she understood. Her hand trembled. As she reached for the handle, a single thought echoed in her mind. What if she wasn't who Clara thought she was at all? The lock clicked, and the door began to open. The steel handle was cold beneath Clara's palm, so cold it burned. She hesitated, her breath shaky, her heart thundering so loudly it drowned out everything else. Behind her, Daniel stood unnervingly still. Too calm. Too knowing. The lock clicked again. The door eased open, and Clara stepped into a room she never could have imagined. It wasn't a dusty archive or a forgotten storage vault. It was pristine. Sterile. Like a lab. Soft white lights glowed overhead. Computers hummed in neat rows. Glass cabinets displayed categorized documents and sealed evidence envelopes. And at the center of the room, a single chair, facing a wall of digital screens. Clara swallowed hard. What is this place? Daniel stepped in beside her, his voice low. This is where the truth was kept, and where lies were born. Clara turned to him, fear rising. You said my mother was running from me. What does that even mean? Daniel didn't answer. Not in words. He walked to the nearest screen and tapped a command. The monitors flickered to life, one by one, until a single video filled the largest display. A hospital room. 25 years ago. A woman, tired, frightened, clutching her stomach, lay in a hospital bed. Clara's breath seized in her lungs. It was her mother. Alone. Clara stepped closer, hand pressed to her lips. What is this? She whispered. Daniel's voice was gentle, but not comforting. The night you were born. Clara stared, tears forming. Her mother was speaking to someone off camera, someone she couldn't see, but whose voice echoed through the speakers. Alexander Vandalian. Clara felt the floor tilt beneath her. Evelyn, Alexander's voice said, firm but calm, we had an agreement. Her mother's voice trembled. I won't raise her under your control. She's not a pawn. She's essential, Alexander replied. You know that. No, her mother snapped, mustering strength. She deserves a life. A real life. Not this plan. Alexander's voice lowered, dangerous. If you take her away, Evelyn, you'll be risking everything. For both of you. Her mother glared at the unseen man. I'd rather risk everything than let her become like you. Clara's knees nearly buckled. Her mother hadn't run from the Vandalians. She'd run from the future Alexander had planned for her. The screen flickered, jumping forward in time. Clara, just a baby, wrapped in a thin hospital blanket. Her mother holding her tight, whispering through tears, I'm going to save you, Clara, even if it means you never know the truth. Clara pressed her hand to the monitor, tears spilling silently. Her mother hadn't abandoned the truth. She had protected Clara from it. From him. Daniel stepped closer, voice softer now. She didn't run from danger, Clara. He paused. She ran from destiny. Clara turned toward him, shaking. Destiny? What destiny? Daniel took a slow breath, and said words that made Clara's heart stop. You weren't meant to be hidden. You were meant to lead. Clara stared, stunned. Lead what? The company? Daniel shook his head. No. He gestured to a sealed metal drawer labeled Genetic Records. You were meant to lead the entire Vandalian legacy. As its true heir. as the successor Alexander engineered. Clara froze. Engineered? Daniel nodded. You think you were an accident? A secret affair? Clara. His eyes locked onto hers. Your birth wasn't natural. It was planned, designed, created with purpose. Clara's skin prickled. What are you saying? Daniel's voice dropped to barely a whisper. You weren't just born into this family. He stepped back, revealing a second name on the screen, buried in medical data. A name that didn't belong to Alexander. The name of her biological donor. Clara's breath vanished. The screen zoomed in, and the name appeared in bold letters. Ethan Van Delian. Clara staggered backward. No, he's my... Daniel held up a hand. Not your brother. Clara froze. Her heart stopped. Daniel took a step closer. Ethan isn't your sibling, Clara. Silence. He's your creation partner. Clara stared, horrified. My what? Daniel continued, words slow and unthinkable. You and Ethan were designed as dual heirs. Two halves of the same legacy. One to lead in public. One to control from the shadows. And together, he swallowed hard. You were meant to merge the Vandalian power into a single bloodline. Clara shook her head violently. No. That's insane. It's the truth, Daniel said. Your mother discovered the plan. She realized what Alexander intended. Clara's voice cracked. Which was what? Daniel whispered. For you and Ethan to become more than heirs. The room spun. Clara tasted panic, sharp and metallic. No. Ethan doesn't know. Ethan can't know. Daniel's expression darkened. That's why they're hunting you. If the board finds out the truth, they'll force the union. It was written in the original contract. Clara felt like she was drowning. Ethan. The elevator. The connection. The spark she couldn't explain. It wasn't fate. It was design. She backed away, sobbing. This can't be real. It can't. Daniel reached out gently. Clara, listen to me. You have to leave now. Before Ethan. A voice cut through the room like a knife. Shaken. And standing just behind her. Before Ethan what? Clara froze. Slowly, dreading what she'd see, she turned. And there he was. Ethan. Dust still streaked across his face. Eyes wide. Chest heaving. And behind the shock, betrayal. He had heard everything. Every word. Clara's throat closed. Ethan. He stepped forward, voice raw. Tell me it's a lie. Clara couldn't speak. His eyes filled, not with anger, but devastation. Tell me you're not part of this. She shook her head, tears streaming. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. Ethan's gaze fell on the screens. On the records. On the truth. And Clara watched something break inside him. Slowly he whispered, So this whole time, we weren't strangers. Clara sobbed. Ethan, please. He took a step back. Then another. As though her presence burned him. You were never supposed to meet me, he whispered. Clara reached for him instinctively. Ethan. He recoiled. No. Stay away. Clara froze, shattered. Ethan's voice trembled, barely audible. I don't know what you are. Clara's heart splintered. But before she could answer, red sirens exploded overhead. Robotic voice boomed. Extraction protocol initiated. Doors slammed open. Armed agents flooded the room. Daniel grabbed Clara's arm. Clara, we have to go. Ethan's eyes widened. Don't you touch her. He lunged forward. Just as the floor beneath them rumbled. And the entire room began to descend. A hidden platform. A subterranean lift. Taking Clara and Daniel away. Ethan reached the edge, screaming her name. Clara! She reached back through the widening gap. Ethan! Their fingers almost touched. Almost. But the platform dropped faster. Darkness swallowed her. Until the last thing she saw was Ethan's face. Destroyed. And the last thing she heard was his voice breaking. Why did you come into my life? Silence. The platform slowed. Stopped. The doors slid open. revealing a massive underground chamber. And standing at its center, Miranda. Beside her, Alexander, waiting, and behind them, a row of armed guards. But one figure wasn't facing Clara. One figure stood with shoulders tense, head bowed, hands clenched, as if torn apart inside. Ethan. He was already there, as if he'd been taken another way. Clara's blood ran cold. Daniel stepped back into the shadows. Miranda smiled faintly. As of this moment, she said, voice ringing in the vast chamber, your lives are no longer separate. Alexander stepped forward. Clara Hayes, Ethan Van Delian. His gaze cut like a blade. You are bound by blood. By design. By destiny. Clara shook, barely standing. Ethan didn't look at her. Not once. Alexander lifted a hand and uttered the words that sealed the room in ice. It's time to complete what began 25 years ago. Clara stared, terrified. What do you mean? Alexander's eyes gleamed. You and Ethan were created to rule as one. Clara's pulse stopped. Ethan looked up, anguish carved into his face. Alexander finished. The merger begins now. The chamber doors locked. The lights dimmed. And the world Clara knew ended. The word merger echoed through the chamber like a sentence. Clara couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Ethan stood rigid, staring straight ahead, his jaw tight, his eyes hollow. He looked like a man locked inside his own body, alive, but trapped. Alexander raised a hand, and the floor between Ethan and Clara flickered to life. A glowing circular platform rose slowly from the ground, etched with symbols, wires, biometric scanners, and two hand-shaped recesses facing each other. It looked less like technology, and more like a ceremony. Clara stepped back. No, whatever this is, I'm not doing it. Miranda's voice was soft, but merciless. You don't have a choice. Clara's fists clenched. There's always a choice. Alexander turned his gaze to her, calm, chilling. Not for you. Not for him. Finally, Ethan's voice broke the air. Strained. Unsteady. What happens if we refuse? Alexander didn't blink. You won't. That wasn't an answer. It was an order. To the guards, he nodded sharply. Prepare the sequence. Panels slid open around the chamber. Machines hummed to life. The platform flared brighter, casting ghostly light across the walls. Clara felt her heartbeat hammering in her throat. She looked at Ethan. He wasn't looking at the machines. He was looking at her. And in his eyes, pain, confusion, fear. But underneath all of it, something she recognized. Resolve. Clara whispered, say something. Please. His voice was barely audible. You shouldn't have come back. She flinched. He swallowed hard. But I'm glad you did. Before Clara could speak, Miranda stepped forward, holding a sleek silver tablet. Once the merger is complete, she announced, your DNA, your legal identities, and your inheritance rights will be unified. The company will belong to both of you. Not separately. Not independently. But as one. Clara shook her head. You're talking like we're assets. We're property. Alexander's eyes flickered. You are legacy. Ethan took a slow, shaky breath. And if we still refuse? Alexander didn't hesitate. We activate protocol severance. Miranda looked away. Clara's voice trembled. What is that? Ethan's face turned white. Alexander answered simply. One of you disappears. Permanently. A cold hush swept through the chamber. Clara's stomach twisted. You mean death? Alexander didn't confirm it. He didn't need to. Ethan stepped forward suddenly, fists clenched. Take me. Leave her out of this. Clara gasped. Ethan, no. Alexander's face hardened. You weren't designed to lead alone. Ethan's eyes blazed. I'd rather die than be a part of this. Clara moved toward him instinctively, but guards aimed their weapons at her. She froze. Alexander exhaled slowly, as if disappointed. This is why we separated you. Why she was hidden. Emotion was never part of the plan. Miranda tapped her tablet. The platform pulsed. Sequence ready, a synthetic voice announced. Guards seized Ethan, shoving him toward the glowing circle. He fought, wild, frantic, but there were too many. Clara screamed, "Stop! Let him go!" No one listened. Ethan was forced into position, his palm pressed onto the scanner. A high-pitched tone pierced the air. Clara lunged forward, only to feel metal clamp around her wrist. A guard dragged her toward the opposite scanner. She thrashed, desperate, "Don't touch me! I'm not doing this!" But the guard was unmoving, unfeeling. Ethan's voice tore across the room. "Clara!" She looked up, eyes burning. He strained against the guards, muscles shaking, panic raw across his face. His voice broke. "I'm sorry. I should have protected you. His words cut off as the scanner locked him in place. Clara was forced onto her side of the platform. The recess glowed beneath her hand, waiting. Alexander raised a hand. "Begin the merge." Miranda lowered her finger toward the command prompt. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. This was it. The destiny someone else chose. The future she never wanted. The life she wasn't asked to live. She stared at Ethan, at his terrified eyes, his shaking breath, his silent plea, and in one blinding surge, Clara made a decision. A choice no one planned for. No one controlled. Her own. She wrenched her free hand upward and slammed it against the scanner. Not flat, but with her fingers curled, clutching the stolen folder. Paper met metal. A spark. A glitch. A warning siren shrieked. Unauthorized data input. Miranda spun toward the console. What did she do? Alexander's face shattered with fury. Stop the sequence. But it was too late. The platform surged with violent light. Computers flickered. Systems crashed. Walls trembled. And across every screen in the chamber, Clara's file exploded open. Her birth records. Her genome. Her heir status. Her mother's contract. Her rights. And one final line, bold and irreversible. Sole successor, Clara Hayes. Not joint. Not shared. Not merged. So, Clara stared, stunned. The room erupted in chaos. Guards shouted. Miranda screamed. Alexander slammed his fist against the console. And Ethan stared at the screen, breath frozen. He looked at Clara. Really looked. Not with fear. Not with confusion. But with something else entirely. Realization. And then, for the first time, before either of them could speak, a rupture rocked the chamber. The floor split. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Systems failed. And an emergency lockdown voice thundered. Security breach. Core override engaged. Clara grabbed Ethan's arm as the platform cracked beneath them. "Ethan, we have to move." He didn't pull away this time. He held on. Tight. But above the noise, Alexander roared, "Catch them! She cannot leave!" Guards surged forward. Ethan pulled Clara toward the collapsing platform edge. They sprinted, hand in hand, toward the unknown. But as the floor gave way, a shadowy figure emerged from a hidden passage, blocking their only exit. Daniel, breathing hard, expression grim. He stared at Clara, then at Ethan, and said one devastating word. "Run." He stepped aside, revealing a dark tunnel behind him. Ethan and Clara froze. Daniel leaned close, voice urgent. "You don't have long. But you need to know." He pointed down the tunnel. "At the end of this path, someone is waiting." Clara's pulse stopped. "Who?" Daniel whispered. "The one person who knows how to destroy the Vandalians." The chamber shook violently. Guards closed in. Alexander shouted. Time ran out. Ethan gripped Clara's hand. Clara drew a trembling breath. And together, they ran into the darkness. Toward the person waiting for them. Toward the truth. Not knowing that the person in the shadows was someone Clara thought she'd lost forever. Someone whose name alone could shatter everything. Clara's lungs burned. Her hands ached from gripping Ethan's. Dust and sparks swirled around them as the crumbling platform echoed behind. The sound of shouts, commands, and alarms chased them down the tunnel. Ethan's eyes darted left and right, scanning every shadow. "Which way?" he shouted over the chaos. Clara shook her head, gripping the folder tighter. "I don't know. But we have to keep moving." The tunnel narrowed, the air thick and stale. Every step felt like plunging further into the unknown. And yet, somewhere deep inside, Clara felt a strange pull. A sense that this path, terrifying as it was the one she had been running toward her entire life. At last, the tunnel opened into a cavernous room, lit by flickering emergency lights. In the center stood a figure. One hand rested on a console, the other folded across the chest. Waiting. Clara froze. The figure straightened, slowly turning. And the light caught their face. Her heart stopped. It was her mother, Evelyn Hayes. Alive. Her mother's hair was streaked with silver, her face lined with fatigue, but her eyes were the same. Sharp, piercing, and full of an unspoken warning. "Mom," Clara whispered. Evelyn's gaze softened, then hardened. "Clara," she said, voice steady. "You shouldn't have come here." Ethan blinked, stunned. "She's alive?" Clara nodded, tears streaming. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes scanning the crumbling ceiling above. "I tried to protect you. Every choice I made, every lie, every move, I made to keep you alive. And to give you a chance to choose for yourself." Clara's throat tightened. "Choose what?" Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. "To either embrace your destiny, or destroy it. Because what Alexander started, what he planned for you and Ethan, it's bigger than any of us. And it's dangerous." Clara's chest tightened. She looked at Ethan, who had stepped closer, his hand instinctively finding hers. "Dangerous how?" Evelyn exhaled sharply. "He wants to control you both. To bend you into what he thinks is the perfect Vandalian heir. But you, both of you, are more than his plans. You have a choice." A loud rumble shook the cavern. Sparks fell from the ceiling. They weren't safe here. Clara looked at her mother, at Ethan, at the folder clutched in her hand. "Then what do we do?" Evelyn's gaze hardened. "You run. You hide. And you fight. But first," she stepped to the side, revealing a small hatch at the edge of the room. "Through there is the only way out of this place alive." Clara and Ethan approached, hearts racing, but before they could step through, a familiar, chilling voice echoed from the shadows. "Going somewhere?" Alexander Vandalian emerged from the darkness, flanked by Miranda and a squad of guards. His presence alone seemed to warp the air. His eyes locked on Clara, then Ethan. "You thought you could escape me?" he said, voice low and dangerous. "You've been running your whole life, Clara, and now you've led him here. Right where I want you." Ethan stepped protectively in front of Clara. "Leave her out of this, Alexander." Alexander smiled, cold, calculating, terrifying. "Out of this? She is the key. She's the one who completes everything I've worked for." Clara felt her chest tighten. She clutched the folder to her chest. The truth, the inheritance, the secrets, they all collided in her mind. Her mother's voice cut through, sharp and commanding. "Clara, whatever happens next, you have to make the choice yourself. No one else can do it for you." The ground beneath them trembled again. Guards advanced. Sparks rained from broken conduits. Clara looked at Ethan. His eyes held fear, anger, and something else. Trust. A silent plea. Her heart pounded. She had seconds to act. And then she saw it, across the room, behind Alexander. A small control panel, exposed, likely connected to the core system of the entire building. A choice lay before her. She could run through the hatch and save herself and Ethan, or she could seize the panel and risk everything, maybe stopping Alexander's plan once and for all, but possibly endangering them all. Her fingers brushed the panel. She swallowed. Alexander's smile widened. "Decide quickly, Clara, because destiny waits for no one." Clara's eyes met Ethan's. He nodded, silently saying, "I trust you." She took a deep breath and pulled the lever. The room erupted. The moment Clara pulled the lever, the entire chamber shuddered violently. Sparks shot from exposed conduits, alarms screamed, and the glowing floor beneath them fractured in jagged lines. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her backward, but the momentum threw them both off balance. They landed hard on the concrete floor, staring up as Alexander's eyes blazed with fury. What have you done?" he roared, voice echoing like thunder. Clara scrambled to her feet, holding the folder tight. "I'm done being your pawn," she shouted. "No more secrets. No more plans. Not my life. Not Ethan's." Miranda's face contorted in shock. "Do you know what you've triggered?" Alexander stepped forward, hands crackling with restrained energy. "You've started a chain reaction in the system. You've destabilized the core. One more move, and everything collapses." Ethan's voice trembled as he got to his feet. "Clara, are you sure about this?" Clara glanced at him, eyes blazing. "I have to be. For everyone who's been trapped in his lies." A deafening hum rose from the machinery embedded in the walls. Red lights flashed, warning of critical failure. The platform beneath them shivered like it was about to collapse entirely. Clara's mother, Evelyn, stepped forward, eyes fierce. "If you're going to do this, you won't be alone. You have to trust yourself, and trust him." She nodded at Ethan. Ethan looked at Clara, his chest rising and falling rapidly. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's end this. Together." Together. Clara's hand hovered over the panel. Every instinct screamed danger. Every shred of fear clawed at her. But this was their chance to fight, not run. She pressed the final switch. The system erupted in a blinding surge of light. Screens shattered. Sparks flew like fireworks. Alarms rang deafeningly, drowning out everything else. The floor groaned. The walls trembled. The guards stumbled, shields failing. Miranda screamed as the automated doors sealed shut around her. Alexander's roar turned to a snarl of disbelief. The core system began to explode, an unstoppable chain of cascading failures. Clara and Ethan clung to each other as the chamber trembled violently. Dust and debris swirled like a storm around them. Then, a calm. A momentary pause in the chaos. Clara blinked. The room was dark, but intact. The core system was offline. The building's hum had vanished. The Vandalian's power, at least for now, was broken. She looked up. Ethan was staring at her, awe and relief in his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. She shook her head, voice hoarse. "We did it. Together." But the victory was short-lived. From the shadows, a cold, measured voice rang out. "You think this ends it?" Clara froze. From the remaining control room doorway, a figure stepped into the dim light. Covered in black tactical gear. A face obscured by a mask. And the moment their gaze met Clara's, she felt it, an icy familiarity. The figure raised a gloved hand, pointing directly at her. "You should have stayed hidden," the voice said. Clara's stomach dropped. The voice, it wasn't new. She had heard it before. Long ago. Evelyn's hand went to Clara's shoulder, firm. "Clara, there's someone else. Someone who knows the truth about your origin and your mother's secrets." Clara glanced at Ethan, terror and determination warring across his face. The figure stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. And then the lights flickered, just long enough for Clara to catch a glimpse. Her blood ran cold. The figure removed their mask and revealed a face she never thought she'd see again. One that should have been gone forever. A smile, cold, knowing, tugged at the corners of their lips. "Hello, Clara," the figure said softly. "We've been waiting a long time for you." Clara stumbled backward, clutching Ethan's arm. The figure continued, voice dripping with menace and familiarity. "And now, it's time to finish what your father started." The ground beneath them rumbled again. Clara's heart froze. Because she knew in that instant that the fight for her life, her family, and her destiny had only just begun. Clara's fingers trembled as she clutched Ethan's arm. Her mind raced. The figure before them, familiar. But how? She had seen that face only in nightmares, in old photographs she had never been allowed to touch. The lights flickered, casting the figure's shadow long across the shattered floor. Their expression, half amusement, half menace, was unmistakable. Clara's voice caught. "No, it can't be." The figure's lips curved into a slow, deliberate smile. "Oh, but it can," they said. "And it is." Ethan stepped in front of Clara, protective and desperate. "Who are you? What do you want from her?" The figure removed the mask fully this time. Clara's stomach turned to ice. It was a man, older than she remembered in the photo she had seen years ago. Hair streaked with silver, eyes sharp and calculating. But most of all, it was a face that had haunted her since childhood. "Father," she whispered. The man's smile widened, not warmth, not affection, but something colder, sharper. "I am your father." Clara shook her head, her knees weak. "No, Alexander is my father. He's alive. You've been lied to your entire life," the man said smoothly. "Alexander? He is a shadow of what I intended. A tool, nothing more. And now, Claire, it's your turn to understand the truth." Her pulse hammered. "The truth? What truth? What did you do to my mother?" The man's expression darkened. "She made a choice. A brave one. She tried to protect you from what Alexander and I, and everyone who comes after us, wanted for you." Clara shook, tears blinding her. "What do you want from me?" He stepped closer, and for the first time, she noticed the small emblem on his coat, a mark she had seen once in an old family journal, scratched into the corner of her mother's notes. "Vandalion Prime. You were never just an heir," he said. "You were designed, genetically engineered to be something more. Not just a successor to the Vandalion legacy, but its culmination. Its apex." Ethan's hand tightened on hers. "She's not an experiment," he spat. "She's a person. You hear me? A person." The man laughed, low, menacing, and full of disbelief. "A person? Perhaps. But a person chosen by destiny. One who can either destroy the Vandalion Empire or complete it." Clara swallowed hard. Her chest burned. She glanced at Ethan. The man wasn't just threatening her life, he was threatening everything she had ever known. Everything they had built together in the chaos of the last hours. Her mother stepped forward, voice steady and commanding. "Claire, listen. He is dangerous. But he's also the key. The key to everything your father, Alexander, tried to hide. Everything we tried to protect you from, it all starts with him." Clara's eyes widened. "But, if he's my father, why is he doing this? Why now?" He smiled again. "Because the world is ready for you. And because Alexander has failed to create the heir he promised. And soon, everyone will know." Clara's head spun. She thought of the folder, of the birth records, the mother who had fought to protect her, the billionaire she had met in an elevator, the secrets that had destroyed everything she knew. Her heart pounded. She looked at Ethan. He was trembling, eyes fierce and protective. Clara realized she couldn't run from this, not anymore. She couldn't hide. Not from him. Not from the legacy. Not from herself. The man stepped closer, voice soft, almost intimate. "The choice is yours, Clara. You can embrace your destiny, or everything you've known, everything you love, will be destroyed." Clara's hands shook. Her mind raced. Destiny. Her mother. Ethan. Alexander. And then, through the deafening silence, a distant rumble shook the ground. The building, or what remained of it, was collapsing around them. The sirens screamed. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The man's smile didn't falter. "Time is short. Choose, before it's too late." Clara's eyes met Ethan's. She could feel the weight of generations, secrets, and lives pressing down on her. And in that moment, she realized the truth she had been running from all her life. She had always had to decide whether to trust him, whether to trust herself, whether to fight or lose everything. Clara inhaled sharply. And then she spoke, the first words of her choice. "I choose." And the chamber trembled violently once more. Clara's voice trembled as she finished the words, her heart hammering in her chest. "I choose to end this." Ethan's eyes widened, confused. "What?" She swallowed, letting the weight of the last 25 years press down on her. The lies. The secrets. The manipulation. The people who had tried to control her, shape her, make her a tool in their game. I'm done being used, Clara said, voice steadying with every word. By Alexander, by my father, by anyone. No more heir. No more pawn. No more secrets. It stops here. The man, Clara's biological father, stiffened, eyes narrowing, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. You would destroy the legacy? I'll decide what legacy is, she said. Her hands tightened on the folder, the tangible proof of everything they had tried to hide. Not you. Not Alexander. Not anyone. Miranda stepped forward, furious. Do you have any idea what you're doing? This will ruin everything your father built. Clara shook her head. It already is ruined. Because you've built it on lies. On control. On fear. The man's face darkened. You think you can defy destiny? You think you can survive what I've planned? Ethan stepped closer, unwavering, eyes locked on hers. We survive together. Whatever this is, whatever he planned, we face it together. Clara glanced at him, heart pounding, and nodded. With a surge of courage, she slammed the folder into the control panel behind the man. Sparks flew. Machines whined. The lights flickered violently. Alarms screamed. Red lights bathed the chamber in a hellish glow. Alexander's voice cut through the chaos like steel. Stop her. She will ruin everything. But the systems Clara had touched were already cascading into failure. The machinery powering the Vandalian core, the platform, the scanners, all destabilized. The man's eyes widened. What have you done? Clara stood tall. I've freed myself. Then now, I free him. She nodded to Ethan. Hold on. The floor trembled violently beneath them. Sparks rained from broken conduits. The walls cracked. Dust choked the air. The guards surged forward, but the failing systems forced them to stumble. Chaos reigned. Clara grabbed Ethan's hand. Run! They sprinted through the crumbling chamber as the floor beneath them cracked and splintered. Behind them, explosions ripped through the corridors. Alexander's furious roar echoed. Miranda screamed. But Clara didn't look back. Not once. She didn't let the fear paralyze her. Through the haze of smoke and fire, she spotted the small hatch her mother had pointed out earlier. A faint glow marked the path to safety. They dove through it just as the platform beneath the main chamber collapsed entirely. Sparks and rubble rained down, creating a wall of destruction behind them. They landed hard, gasping for breath, in a narrow, winding tunnel. Dust filled their lungs. Clara's hands shook. Ethan pressed a hand to her back. Are you okay? He asked, voice rough. Clara nodded, gripping the folder. I will be. As long as we're together. Ahead, faint light flickered, the way out. But as they approached, a shadow moved across the walls. Slow, deliberate. Clara froze. Her blood ran cold. A figure stepped from the darkness. Not Alexander. Not Miranda. Not her biological father. Someone taller. Broader. Cloaked in black, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Clara's heart stopped. The figure spoke, voice low, terrifying yet familiar. Clara Hayes, you've started something you cannot finish. Clara swallowed. Who are you? The figure stepped closer. One gloved hand extended, palm up, as if offering or threatening. I am the one who ensures that no Vandalian heir escapes destiny. And now, it is your turn. Clara glanced at Ethan. He held her hand tightly. They both understood. This was not just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for everything: truth, freedom, love, and life itself. The shadow moved closer, and the ground beneath them began to shake violently. Clara realized this was only the beginning. The tunnel quaked harder, dust raining from the ceiling as the shadowed figure stepped closer. Clara's pulse roared in her ears. Ethan moved in front of her, ready to shield her even with nothing but his body. The figure lifted his head, the dim light finally revealing his face. Clara gasped. Alexander, she whispered. Her adoptive father, gaunt, shaken, his once sharp features carved with exhaustion, stared at her with eyes that held years of secrets. He wasn't dead. He hadn't disappeared. He had been hiding, protecting, or plotting. It was always going to come to this, Alexander said, voice trembling with equal parts grief and resolve. You were never meant to be part of his legacy. Clara shook her head. You lied to me. You lied about everything. About my father. About who I am. Alexander stepped forward, pain tightening his expression. I lied because I loved you. Because he pointed back toward the collapsing chamber, would have destroyed you. You were created for his empire, Clara. But I took you. I raised you as my daughter. I wanted you to have a life. A real life. Clara's breath caught. All the pieces crashed together. Alexander hadn't stolen her birthright. He had stolen her freedom back. Ethan's voice was low. Then help her now. If you care, help her end this. Alexander's gaze flickered to Ethan, then to Clara. There is only one way to stop him. The legacy, the research, the Vandalian data, it's all tied to the core. And when she destroyed it, she started the collapse of the whole system. Clara's eyes widened. The explosion was just the beginning, Alexander said. If we don't get out now, the entire complex will come down. And us with it. A violent tremor shook the tunnel. A deafening crack splintered overhead. Clara grabbed Ethan's hand. Then we run. All of us. Alexander hesitated. He looked at her, not as an heir, not as a creation, but as a daughter. Then he nodded. They sprinted toward the distant glow, the tunnel's exit, dodging falling stones, choking on smoke. The roar behind them grew louder, closer, unstoppable. At the final bend, daylight burst through, a harsh, blinding relief. Clara pushed forward, just as the ground split beneath Alexander's feet. He stumbled, dropping to his knees. Go, he shouted. You have a chance, take it. Clara spun back, panic tearing through her. No, I'm not leaving you. Alexander's eyes softened for the first time in years. You already chose your destiny. One where you're free. One where you live your own life. That's all I ever wanted. The floor gave way further, stone crumbling. Ethan grabbed Clara's arm. Clara, we'll all die. Tears streamed down her face. She reached out for Alexander. He smiled, broken but proud. My daughter. And the tunnel collapsed, swallowing him in a thunder of stone and dust. Clara screamed, the sound ripped from her soul. But Ethan pulled her into the blinding daylight. And the world behind them fell silent. Clara stood on a quiet hill overlooking the smoldering remains of the complex. Emergency crews swarmed the area, but little was left. Just rubble. And secrets that would never surface again. Ethan approached gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. You ended it, Clara. The legacy, the control, the lies. It's over. She turned to him, eyes red but steady. I didn't save everyone. He shook his head. You saved yourself. And sometimes, that's the only way to save others. Clara inhaled, letting the truth settle. Her past was shattered. But her future? Untouched. Hers. Ethan reached for her hand. So, what now? Clara looked out at the horizon, the wide, uncertain world beyond everything she'd ever known. We start over, she said softly. No titles. No destinies. Just us. Ethan smiled, a slow, hopeful smile that warmed the cold edges of her heart. Then wherever the next elevator is, he said, lacing their fingers together, I hope I'm in it with you. Clara leaned into him, a tear slipping down her cheek, not of grief, but of rebirth. For the first time in her life, she felt free. But as they walked away, hand in hand, a silent drone blinked to life among the ruins, its red sensor pulsing. A transmission flickered through a hidden channel. A voice, cold, alive, unmistakable, whispered. Phase 2 begins. And somewhere far away, Clara's biological father opened his eyes.